Greetings. I'm Professor Hobo, and today we're going to be answering the question that you guys have been asking me the most lately. That is, how do I charge my Jackery or my BLUETTI portable power station, or any portable power station for that matter, with a portable solar suitcase kit such as this one, which has a built-in solar controller, or just a plain old-fashioned solar panel such as this flex panel, or even like the rigid glass panels. Let's find out. Now let's start off with the newest kit on the block, the JACKERY Explorer 1000. Now this and all of its little brothers do not come with any way from the factory to actually charge with a non-Jackery brand panel. So if you want to use a folding solar suitcase kit, a flex panel, or energy panel, or a glass panel on the roof of your vehicle, you can't do it without either buying a special adapter or building a special adapter. Now if you have a Maxoak BLUETTI EB150 such as this, or the brand new EB240, which is a larger version of this, these can be charged the same way as a Jackery. The difference is they only have 8mm input, so you have to use an 8mm adapter in order to send power into this. You can still charge these with any kind of solar panel in the market, including a folding solar suitcase kit or any flex panel or any glass panel. And this actually does come with an MC4 to 8mm adapter. So first, let's review what it'll take to charge the JACKERY Explorer 1000 with one of these folding solar suitcase kits that has its own controller built in. Now there's a big difference between suitcase kits that do not have a controller, which is this little box here. It takes the solar power from the panels, converts it into a safe 12-volt level, which is used to charge a lead-acid battery or a lithium battery. But they're not designed to charge portable power stations because these already have one of these built in. Now in this case, the JACKERY Explorer 1000 actually has an 8mm and an Anderson power pole input. Now the 8mm is actually 7.9mm or a 7955 barrel plug connection. If you're looking for the name of the plug that you need to fit in here, that's what it's called. Now this is a very common Anderson power pole 30 amp connector. That doesn't mean that you can put 30 amps into the Jackery. The Jackery only accepts 10 amps, but the connector itself can handle 30 amps. Now, I'm always asked which one of these are better for solar. Now, either one's going to do the job just fine. I prefer the Anderson connector because it's more solid, it's more stable, it's higher amp. It's just a better connection than the 8mm, which is wobbly, sometimes can fall out, pull out real easily. So if you have the option between 8mm and Anderson, use the Anderson for your solar. So that's going to bring us down to what cabling do you need. Now, this actually came with the Maxoak BLUETTI. The Jackery, none of the Jackery products come with cables like this to charge with third-party solar panels. But you can buy this exact cable on hobotech.tv/Amazon under these solar adapters. And it has 8mm on one side, which will actually go into the 8mm on the Jackery. And then it has an MC4, that's what these are called, MC4 connectors. Now these are polarized connectors that are used pretty much universally for solar panels. If you want to plug a regular solar panel into a Jackery, you need one of these adapter cables. It does not come with it. And if you actually want to use one of these folding solar suitcase kits and charge your Jackery, you're going to need something like this. Now this is a homemade cable. Basically it's just plain terminals on one side or bare wires, then the other side is the 8mm barrel plug connector. Now this cable's special because I actually put an Anderson connector in there, so what it allows me to do is pull this apart, and now I can use this side for the solar panel and this side for my Explorer 1000 Jackery, or I can use the 8mm. So it's kind of neat. Is if I want to use the 8mm, I can just plug this little extension in. Now you can't buy this, you have to make this yourself. And in fact, finding an Anderson power pole pigtail is kind of tough too. You almost have to always make these cables. Usually these are only sold in extension cables, so you can get like a 10 or 20 foot Anderson extension cable and cut it in half, but they're pretty expensive. You're almost better off making one of these if you want to do this. However, you can find the 8mm pigtails on Amazon. They're for IBM, Lenovo laptops. So generally you can find it's this side on one end and then the bare wires on the other end, and that'll allow you to do the same thing. So let's show you how you bypass the controller on one of these so you can charge your power station. Now this is the solar charge controller that's built into the panel. I'll zoom out here and I'll show you basically what this looks like. It's on the back of the folding solar suitcase kit. and it's got a bunch of wires going into it. Now, what you need to disconnect are the wires that are coming from the solar junction box. This is basically a junction box that's attached to the solar panel, and this cable goes into this controller. So this is the one you actually want to disconnect. Now, you don't have to remove this cable. All you have to do is just stick your bare wires into the sockets along with the other ones, and you can use them simultaneously. You can actually let the solar controller still get powered from the solar panels while you're pulling power to your Jackery. Now, it's not recommended to do that, but you can do that. So these require a regular little screwdriver, so you're going to need a small screwdriver to unscrew these connectors. Usually on these solar panels that are 100 watts, 150 watts, 200 watts, these are very small. So all you need to do is unscrew them. Red is positive, and whatever other color is negative. So in this case, you see there's black for negative and red for positive. In this case, it's blue for negative and red for positive. So I'm going to do one at a time. I'm just going to loosen the screw for the red, or plus. It says plus right there. So I'm going to do this one at a time. Here's my red wire, my positive wire that I'm going to use for my pigtail. So you just unscrew positive. You don't have to unscrew it all the way, but just enough to stick your other wire in there. Okay, so I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and remove this wire. It's kind of big and in the way. Stuck both wires back in and screw them down. So I have both red wires together. Do the same with the black wire. Go with the blue wire and the black wire. Put those, shove those into the negative, and screw them down nice and tight. So we now have the red cable going into the red and screwed down, and we have the black cable going into the negative, and we have that screwed down. And we have that going to our Anderson connector in this case for the Explorer 1000. We just plug it in, and if the solar panel was pointing towards the sun, it would charge right now. No, it's on the table, so it's not going to charge, but that's how you do it. And it works exactly the same for the 8mm plug. So there's no difference in wiring. The outside ring is negative, and then the inside pin is positive. So as long as you have it wired like that, it'll work just fine. So that's literally how easy it is to bypass the controller on your solar panel and charge a Jackery. Now, you can charge any power station this way from any solar suitcase kit. You just have to bypass this controller by wiring your wires directly to where the solar panel comes into it, not the battery side. In this case, I have this white cable here, that's the battery side. That would typically go to the lead-acid batteries. I've had people ask me, what about the side with the battery clamps? Can I just use the solar controller that's built in and hook this directly to the Jackery somehow? Can I just wire it from here because it's charging a battery, right? Well, it's not the case. If you hook this up to the input of the Jackery, no power is being sent through these cables. And these solar controllers, they're powered by the battery that you plug them into. They're not powered by the solar panel. I know it sounds strange. You have to have a battery hooked up to this in order for it to work. Well, that's how these work. So it's not directly powered from the solar. So if you don't have a battery hooked up to it, and this is not a battery, this is a power station or solar generator, there is a battery inside of it, but there's a lot between the input and the battery. You're not just connecting directly to the battery when you plug it into the input. So it's not going to even light this thing up. It won't allow you to program it. You can't change the voltage on it. You can't do anything with it. So the only way to do this with a solar panel that has a solar controller built into it, like this one does, is just positive to red, negative to black, run your own wires out to your adapter, and then plug it into your Jackery. So what about the Maxoak BLUETTI or any other portable power station with the 8mm input? It's exactly the same. There's no difference. You have your positive, the red, your negative, the black, coming into your 8mm connector. We call these a pigtail when it's just bare wires on one side and a connector on the other, and you plug it in. And again, if the solar panel is pointing towards the sun, it would charge. But since there's no sun right now, and we're in the shade, it's not going to work. That's all there is to it, guys. It's super simple. Literally hook up 2 wires and you're bypassing your solar controller. Some of these cables, there are pre-made options that you can get on hobotech.tv/Amazon under the solar adapters area, and others you're just going to have to make yourselves. You're going to want to at least use 14 gauge cable for the Jackery. And for the BLUETTI, I suggest 10 gauge cable because this can actually accept 500 watts of solar. So if you're going to put 500 watts through this, you better use some pretty heavy cable. So 10 gauge would be the recommended for your pigtail for the BLUETTI, and then 12 to 14 gauge would be recommended for any of the other Jackery products. So what about the baby Jackeries? What about these little guys? What about the 160, 240, 500? Again, there's no difference whatsoever. You're still using your 8mm barrel plug, plugged directly into your solar controller bypass, and you plug it in, and if we were in the sun, it would charge. So you can see this 8mm connector is sometimes a better way to go because you can charge just about anything on the market that has the 8mm input, including the BLUETTI series or any of the Jackeries. Now you're going to run into a lot more power stations nowadays that have the Anderson input instead of the 8mm or in concert with it. So in that case, you're going to want to make sure that you use an Anderson connector instead of the 8mm. Now, I built this cable specifically to accept both, so that way I don't have to have a whole bunch of different cables around. I just hook it up and now it's an 8mm. I unhook it, now it's an Anderson, and it works exactly the same. And please don't ask, I'm not building cables anymore. I did build some cables last year to help people charge their Jackeries with a generic solar panel. I'll put that video up here so you guys can check that out if you want to see how to make your own 12-volt socket cable to charge just some of the older Jackeries. Okay, so let's assume you have some rigid glass solar panels like this. How do you use those to charge your power stations? Again, these have what are called MC4 connectors. So pretty much any regular solar panel on the market are going to have these polarized MC4 connectors. Polarizing mean one is shaped differently than the other because one's positive and one's negative. Now this is the positive coming from the solar panel. Now it will connect into what looks like this, which is a negative. That's normal. The polarity is judged by the source. So in this case, you're coming right from the solar panel. This is the positive, the one with the red ring on it. Actually has a little plus sign on there too. Now this is a BOUGERV 100 watt flex panel. There's no difference between this and a rigid panel when it comes to how you hook them up. Again, these have the MC4 connectors on them. The positive one has a little red ring on it. Now what you need, if you want to use this with a Jackery or any other power station that doesn't include the adapter cable, is the MC4 to 8mm adapter cable. And this can be found on my website, hobotech.tv/Amazon. There'll be a link below in the description. This will save you a lot of time, but all you gotta do is you just hook the positive from the solar panel into the negative of the cable. Now, don't get confused, that's how it's supposed to work. I've had a lot of people say, but you're hooking positive to negative, you're never supposed to do that. That's the way MC4 is designed, okay? So this is the negative coming from the panel. It's plugging into the positive of the adapter. So just don't be confused. Here's the way MC4 works. You can't get it wrong. You can't plug them in wrong because they got a special design, so you can't plug them in wrong. So don't worry about it. Just plug them in. Worst case scenario, if you get something backwards somehow, like you wired something wrong, like you made your own cable and it's backwards, you'll go to plug it in and it won't work. It's not going to fry your power station. All these things nowadays, they all have built-in circuitry to prevent you from frying them by accident by plugging things in wrong. So don't worry about it. So as you can see now, I have the solar panel plugged into the MC4 connector, and this side's 8mm. All you gotta do now is plug this sucker into your Jackery. This is one of the best-selling Jackeries. You can find them again on my website. You just plug the sucker in, and if we were in the sun, it would charge. That's all there is to it. And again, this works with the brand new Explorer 1000. Plug it in, and it'll start to charge if we were pointed towards the sun. Look. There's not even any sun on this side of the building, and it's trying to charge anyway. Shows you that it's working. Now you know how to hook up one solar panel to your Jackery or your MaxOak BLUETTI. And by the way, when you buy a MaxOak BLUETTI, this cable comes with it. It allows you to actually use regular solar panels with your BLUETTI. So your next question is going to be, what about if you have more than one solar panel? How do you hook them up? Okay, so say you have a MaxOak BLUETTI or other power station that supports hooking up solar panels in series. Now, the JACKERY Explorers do not support hooking up solar panels in series. You can generally only use one panel, or you can hook up 2 or 3 or more by using what's called a parallel cable. Now, I'm not going to go over this because I already went over how to charge with 2 Jackery solar panels by using a parallel cable that I made myself. So if you want to see that video, it's going to be linked up above here. That'll show you how to hook up more than 1 solar panel to a JACKERY Explorer 1000. Now, that's specific to the 1000 because that supports multiple panels in parallel. The older Jackeries also support doing panels in parallel, but you have to do it with an 8mm connector, and that is a lot more complicated. However, if you do want to hook up multiple Anderson power poles in parallel, I have an easy solution for you. It is on my website, hobotech.tv/Amazon. Down in the solar adapter section, there is a block, parallel adapter block, where you can plug 1 cable in from 1 solar panel, 1 cable in from the other solar panel, and then a 3rd cable going to your Jackery. And I'll show you that right here, what that looks like, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can use that to hook up multiple Anderson power pole solar panels to your Jackery products. So what about hooking up more than 1 solar panel in series to your BLUETTI or other supported power station? Super simple. We have the MC4 to 8mm adapter right here in our hand. We have our BOUGERV flex panel with our MC4 connectors. And I have this Renogy solar panel in the other hand with, again, MC4 connectors. Let's zoom in here. I'll show you what I'm doing. So we have the positive coming from the Renogy panel, and we're going to take that positive from the Renogy panel, and since we're running them in series, we're going to hook it to the negative of the BOUGERV panel. So here's the negative from the BOUGERV. Here's the positive from the Renogy. Hook the positive to the negative. So now these 2 solar panels are linked together in what's called series. That leaves you with 1 wire coming from 1 solar panel and 1 coming from the other. You just take these, and you can't get this wrong, you just plug the positive into the adapter and the negative into the adapter. And now you have 2 solar panels in series combining their power together and putting it into this 8mm connector. So again, we have this cord coming out from the 1 solar panel, going into the cord to the other solar panel, and then there's 1 cable coming out this way and 1 cable coming out this way. It goes to the adapter, which goes to your 8mm, and then you plug this into your BLUETTI or whatever other power station that supports 8mm connectors. I just plug the adapter into the BLUETTI, and if we had enough solar power right now, we'd be charging, but we're not charging because there's no sun. That's all there is to it for a series connection. So let's assume you have a JACKERY Explorer 1000. Now, you've watched on my review that said you can actually put multiple solar panels into a Jackery, but it has to be in parallel, not series, because series adds the voltage of the panels together, and that voltage is too high for the Jackery. Now, what you're going to need for that is you're going to need 2 of these Y branch adapters. You're also going to need your MC4 to 8mm cable adapter, which I just talked about before. You're probably also going to need an extension cord of some kind, probably an MC4 extension, so you can put this indoors or in the shade while you have your solar panels out in the sun. All these cables are available on hobotech.tv/Amazon under the solar adapter section. Okay, so how do you hook up 2 solar panels in parallel? So we have the 2 connectors from the 1 solar panel and the 2 connectors from the other solar panel. Now, instead of hooking these together like we did last time, we're actually going to hook them up using these branch adapters. You actually can't do this wrong, so you just hook up positive to negative on one, positive to negative on the other, and you get your second branch adapter, Y adapter, hook it to the negative, and same with this other panel. So now you have these 2 solar panels hooked up to these 2 outputs. And all you have to do is take your MC4 to 8mm adapter, and you plug it in to the 2 remaining outputs from your solar panels, and you can't get this wrong. And they only go in one way. And then this is ready to go into your Jackery. Now let's see. The sun is literally down. Let's see if this even turns on. Nope, I didn't think so. There's not enough sun to even make the display come on right now. But that's how you do it. And don't forget, you're likely to need an extension cable, probably an MC4 extension cable, and you can get those in 10, 20, 30, 50 feet long if you want to. Anderson cables are a lot more expensive, but you can get those extension cables as well. So say you want to run your Jackery solar panels, which use Anderson connectors, and then you want to have them far away from your Jackery power station. You can get those. extension cables as well. Both kinds of extension cables are available on my website. Now for Anderson style extension cables, try to keep them as short as possible. Solar panel cables are meant to run a lot longer distances, so they're a heavier gauge. They got a nice UV coating. But a lot of the Anderson cables, especially the cheaper ones, really aren't meant for months upon months of being outdoors. So you probably want to keep them as short as you can. Try to keep the cables kind of shaded if you can. They will eventually break down in the sun unless you get one that's actually designed for outdoor use. And remember to always check the VOC on your solar panel before you decide to use it with your power station. The VOC is the open circuit voltage. On this, it's 20.8 volts. You want to make sure that whatever the open circuit voltage is does not exceed the voltage that is allowed for your power station. For example, on the bottom of the JACKERY Explorer 1000, the maximum input voltage is 30 volts. So you can run one solar panel or multiple solar panels in parallel, but you cannot run more than one solar panel in series, because in series, you add the voltage. So in that case, it's 20.8 volts. It would be 41.6 volts, which would be way too high to run the JACKERY Explorer. Now the BLUETTI, the brand new EB240, the 2400 watt hour, can take up to 67 volts. So you can run 3 solar panels in series. That's what makes the BLUETTI so fascinating. It can take 500 watts of input at 67 volts. So it allows you a lot more configuration with lots of panels like this, where if you do get the JACKERY, it's a much more simple product. You can still run multiple solar panels, but you got to do it in parallel. And this will only charge at about 175 watts, which isn't bad, but it's not as fast as a BLUETTI. Now, when you run panels in parallel, you add the amps. You don't have to worry about the amps on these power stations because they're all basically limited to about 10 amps input. So if you pump 30 amps into it, it's only going to accept 10 amps. However, the voltage is much more important. These will not accept too high of a voltage. They just simply won't charge. And if you get confused between series and parallel, like a lot of people do, remember that TV series, they run back to back. So you're hooking plus to minus, back to back, plus to minus. And you generally don't need any special adapters to hook in series because you're just hooking one panel to the other. You don't need any special cables or branch connectors or anything like that. Parallel are like lanes on the freeway. You're driving next to somebody on an interstate or on a freeway, and that's parallel. And that's where all the positives are hooked together and all the negatives are hooked together. And then those two lines go into your power station. And yes, you do need special adapters to hook up in parallel, either this Y branch connector or that thing I mentioned before for Anderson paralleling. There's like a little block that you can use that allows you to hook multiple solar panels into it if you're doing Anderson connectors. All these adapters, in fact, all the products you've seen today, including the JACKERY Explorer 1000 and the Maxote BLUETTI series, are all available on my website, hobotech.tv/Amazon. And of course, the links are below in the description. If you want to click on those, it takes you to the Amazon page of these products, where you can find out what the current pricing is. And if it's something you want to get, snag it up. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe. And clean my litter box.
And FYI, these techniques can be used with virtually any portable power station or solar generator out there on the market. So you don't have to have a BLUETTI or a JACKERY. You can pretty much anything that you find on hobotech.tv/Amazon, you can charge with any of these solar panels that you saw using these methods. Hey, thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, share, and like. And we'll see you guys next time. Say hi, Odin.
Harvey Golf Guy, Hat.